Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, when this episode comes out, it will be like 5 days before Christmas. How exciting.
How long did it take you to count that? Because I'm very impressed right now.
Well, 20th. I feel like it's 20th. I could be wrong. Not only is it 5 days to Christmas, it's also episode 69. Which will kind of like when this episode progresses, it'll kind of like play well into the kind of like this topic of the maybe not. Okay, maybe that's
here
my
I am sitting
thing.
here like this afternoon being like, oh, I do everything for the lead up of this podcast. And you're sitting over there being like, yes, I've counted how many days there is until Christmas and how many episodes. Well done, Shannon. Well done.
Not all heroes wear capes, Lita. Not all heroes wear capes. But yeah, this episode is going to be a very fertility-based episode.
It is going to be a very fertility-based episode.
Which I don't know if that's a strong topic for me. I just know what I do on my end, which is compared to what the females have to do, very not very complex.
You might learn a little bit this episode.
I know. It might be one of those ones I go, wow, girls do that? What?
I think I'm going to relate a lot to this episode.
You are? Yeah, because you're female. I'd be scared if you didn't. But I reckon this is one of those episodes we just keep the intro nice and short. Christmas is coming up. We don't want to drag it out till Christmas. So we might as well do the introduction, get our guest in, and start the fertility chat.
Fair enough. Well, you've just ruined my intro, but whatever.
Okay, sorry.
So tonight's guest went under the knife in 2018 to have the gastric sleeve. She has since lost 50 kilos and become a new mama. Here to talk to us about her journey through weight loss, fertility, and now being a mum. Please welcome Sammie, a.k.a. In Search of Sammie on Instagram. Hey, lovely. I think that was the shortest intro we've ever done.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. The
me.
intro was quite short because I was kind of thinking I don't really, have anything to talk about. So I just said, let's just get our guest in because she's way more interesting than anything I've done this week. So welcome, Sammie. Absolute pleasure to have you on.
Congratulations on being a new ma.
Thank you.
And your whole weight loss journey process as well. Like that's been pretty remarkable in its own aspect. So
50 kilos is a massive goal.
It's been a bit of a journey. It was actually 2019, so it's been 2 years since my surgery. So, then with COVID and lockdowns, it's been a wild ride. So
I can't even imagine. Like we've had it very good up here in Queensland, so I can't imagine what you guys have been through. But I guess I want to start this off and just know, tippy-toeing around the subject. You said in your form that one of your biggest reasons and your why to having surgery was so that you could have a family before it was too late. Do you want to elaborate on that for us? Like, what does too late mean? And like, have you been trying to start a family for a very long time? Like, talk us through that.
Yeah, so I guess my journey with infertility started when I was 19, when I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. And at that point in time, I was told by my medical team that I was going to need a lot of invasive assistance in having a family. So I kind of took that off the table for myself in terms of planning a family and letting, future partners know that it was not going to be an easy ride. And I was getting to the point of, being 33 and thinking, oh my God, like my body clock's ticking away, like if not now, when? And so, I guess that kind of sparked my interest in taking control of my weight and hopefully helping my fertility, not with a guaranteed outcome of having a family, but that was the main reason for me trying.
Can I ask, it's super rude to ask how old a woman is, but can I ask how old you are?
Yeah, 35.
Okay, because that's
I thought she's going to be like, yeah, it's rude to ask, don't ask.
Because that's sort of where we are at the moment as well, because like last year I started looking into the whole fertility thing and I never got diagnosed with PCOS, but like we suspected it, and every time I went in for a scan there was cysts on my ovaries, and then I went in for a scan the next month and there was none, and it was just like I think I went through about 8 months worth of testing and it was still inconclusive, and I was like, stuff it, I'm done. So then I had weight loss surgery, and it's all sort of the last time I had an internal ultrasound, they were kind of like, there's zero signs of it. Like, that's a really good thing. But like, I guess like for me, then I started like for other reasons, I went to a gynecologist and I started looking into the whole cycle sort of thing. And she told me that I had a very low AMH, I think it's called, which is like my egg count. And that kind of made me go, okay, well, I kind of have to decide if I want to have a family or not, because I'm 33 now. And if like I've been told that my ovaries are the age of a 45-year-old. So I pretty much have to decide now if I want to have kids or not. Was that a similar sort of thing for you?
Not really. So I guess when I was diagnosed when I was 19, obviously my egg quality wasn't really a factor then. It was more so the fact that my polycystic ovarian syndrome, not only did I have cysts on my ovaries, but I had the full spectrum of symptoms that comes with PCOS as well. So that can range from insulin resistance, which obviously makes it extremely hard to lose weight, excessive hair growth, heavy periods or no periods at all. So you're not cycling regularly, and a lot of pain when you do. So those symptoms in conjunction with the infertility side of thing at that point in time, were really weighing into how much my PCOS was affecting my whole body. So sometimes you can have cysts, sometimes you won't have cysts, sometimes it'll just be the symptoms, and sometimes it won't. So it really just depends on the individual. So coming into later in life, I guess I never really had my egg count or egg quality assessed. I, at one point, had fallen pregnant previously and unfortunately miscarried, but that was due to weight loss, that I was able to fall pregnant and realize that I had that capacity for the first time. So as a result of knowing that I could fall, then I wanted to gain control of my weight and hopefully help my fertility again moving forward. And that's why I decided to have weight loss surgery.
Yeah. We had a conversation, and this is a really morbid, I guess, conversation I had with Lita once, where I was saying I kind of just wish even if we could get pregnant once, and like even if we lost, it would be good to know that we could, because at the moment we've had like nothing. Like we've had we had, apart from that one weird false positive that we had, we haven't really had anything. And like, we've been trying pretty rapidly. Like, what was it? Hamilton Island, pretty graphic thing. But I said, if you're not pregnant after Hamilton Island, I've definitely probably changed your DNA at this point.
We pretty much said that we were going to call our kid Hamo if we fell pregnant in Hamilton Island.
If you're not pregnant after that island, I tell you what, like.
But falling pregnant is such a mind fuck. Sorry the language, but like we've done all the testing and everything, and like the gynecologist has told us that apart from the fact that I've got a low egg count, everything in my body is working properly. I should be able to fall pregnant. And Shan's done his testing.
My literal GP's words were, "Oh yeah, you should have no problem knocking someone up. It's not an amazing count, but it's like," he's like, "Oh, you shouldn't have an issue." So it's like clearly must be a circle sperm square hole or something. Like, what I mean? Like they're just like, no, it's not going to work.
No, what it is that your sperm are watching YouTube videos, and my like eggs like, "Hey Shannon," and then you're like watching something else, and I'm like, hey over here, and then they're like, "No, I'm done,
guys, I'm busy.
I'm busy.
I honestly think like my sperm probably just get lost. They pop out the nose hole and they're like, okay, I've taken a wrong turn somewhere, not sure where, but definitely gone the wrong way. It's definitely not as simple as you think it may be at some point in your life. And I guess, as much as you losing, and having a miscarriage, it kind of might have put a little bit of positive thoughts into your head. Like, as bad as it is, it also means it's possible. You can, what is it, fertilize an egg? Is that kind of the right terms? Again, like really not a good topic for me because I'm not super educated in it. But, you can fertilize the egg. You can, do the things. It's just about
your body is able
putting yourself
to
in a better position to kind of like, hold it for that term. So, yeah.
So that kind of leads me into the question of, because you lost the weight, you fell pregnant and unfortunately had the miscarriage. Did your sole reason for having weight loss surgery was to fall pregnant? Like if it wasn't for the fact that you were trying for a baby, do you think that you would have had weight loss surgery?
I think I still would have had it. So just going back to the first time I felt pregnant and realizing that was a possibility for my body, that was in 2016. And at that point in time, like everyone, you know, who's had eating disorders and issues with weight loss, I was on the shakes. I was using Herbalife at that point in time, and I had lost about, I think it was about 20 kilos, but I certainly wasn't at the heaviest I had been. And yeah, we accidentally fell pregnant, and in the space of a week, we found out I was pregnant, spiraled out of control because we're not ready, but we were also like amazed that we could even fall pregnant. And then unfortunately, I miscarried in the same week as well. So I guess the double-edged sword was, you know, definitely knowing that it was possible, but for me, I actually spiraled out of control emotionally, and I gained all the weight plus the rest.
Totally.
As you do.
Yeah.
When you come off, you know, unsustainable weight loss programs like Herbalife. And then that was it for me. I didn't want to talk about fertility. I didn't want to try at all. I was really quite traumatized by my experience. And it was in a couple of months before I had my surgery, I was speaking to a girlfriend, and she was looking amazing, a girl I went to high school with, and she had done Herbalife with me, and I said, what are you doing? Like, tell me what you're doing, because you look absolutely amazing, and I am so sick of my weight being my number one issue. And she said, I had weight loss surgery, and I went to this surgeon, and, you know, he was amazing, and I was like, oh my God, like I hadn't really known anyone who had weight loss surgery personally. I didn't know that there was support through, you know, accessing super and all that kind of stuff to be able to make it available to me. And that was it. I was decided. I was like, that's it. I'm having weight loss surgery. I feel like it's going to get my weight under control. I'm hoping that I'm going to have results like my girlfriend did. And if I don't fall pregnant, if I don't have a family, at least I'm going to be happy and healthy. But
such
of course,
a great outcome to like such a great mindset for it. Yeah.
Amazing silver lining. And how did you find the pregnancy like after weight loss surgery? Like, did you have to go and see, like when you were talking to like how long after surgery was it that you fell pregnant?
So not long. So usually they advise 12 to 18 months before you fall pregnant after surgery. At least my surgeon did. And that's mainly because obviously the further you're out, the more your stomach extends, the more foods that you can tolerate. Yeah. And it just is easier to sustain a bigger nutritional count than when you're recently out of surgery. So I had my surgery in the December of 2019, and then we actually fell pregnant, I think it was in April of 2020. So that happened, and again, unfortunately, we had another miscarriage, but I was prepared this time. You know, I was like, okay, it's working. My body's, you know, doing what it needs to do, and I am too fresh out of surgery. So even though it sucks that, you know, we're not staying pregnant, at least we're getting pregnant again. And then I didn't know, but I hit my 50 kilo weight loss celebration milestone. And at that point, I was actually already a couple of weeks pregnant. So
so the photo of you holding up the balloons, you were pregnant. Oh,
did you know at that stage? No, you didn't know.
No, I had no clue. So it wasn't until I had a conversation with a girlfriend in the community and said, when did we last have a period? Because I knew that I was synced up with her. And she said, you might want to take a test. And yeah, sure enough, I was pregnant. So
I just had like a girl versus boy moment. Like I have guy friends in the community, and you guys are like, so when did we last have a period? And we're like, you know, the boys are like, when did we last have a beer together?
Yeah.
You know, it's like male versus female conversations.
Was so your partner that your husband, your husband, he was obviously through the whole miscarriage before surgery. Was he fully on board with the surgery prior to like you doing it, or did it take a little bit of convincing to say that, you know, this is what I want to do and this is, you know, it's going to help us in the long run, and it wasn't like solely a selfish, I know it sounds bad to call it selfish, but did you have to convince him to be on board with the surgery?
Absolutely not. I was so worried to have that conversation with him. So after speaking to my girlfriend, like I said, that was it. My mind was made up and I was like, this is the way. This is how I'm going to take control of my PCOS and just, you know, get my life back on track. And I remember I was studying at night at that point in time, and I came home and it was 9 o'clock, and I sat down on the couch and I said, I need to talk to you about something. And I just completely fell apart, like instantly. And he was amazing. He was so supportive, and he was just like, look, if that's what you want to do and that's what you feel like you need, then absolutely do it, you know. And I thought that from a male perspective, he might not really understand the impact that my PCOS has had on me in my life, because I don't openly talk about it and I don't make a big deal of it, you know, and we don't really talk about the infertility side of things. He just always knew from day one that it was going to be a fight if it happened at all. And yeah, he was just so supportive and so amazing. And literally like a month and a half later, I was in surgery. So
question about PCOS, because again, I think you hit the nail on the head then. I don't know. I've heard PCOS a lot as a male, but is there different side effects of PCOS? Like you were just saying with the insulin and like, you know, the weight gain. Is there kind of like a set stand? Like if you have PCOS, do you have certain things that happen to everyone? Or
this is the one thing that you will relate to, and it doesn't happen to everybody. But remember when we watched The Greatest Showman?
Oh, okay, yep.
And there was the woman that had the beard.
Oh, yeah, because she had high level of testosterone.
Yeah, so the woman who played that character, that wasn't a fake beard.
Oh, so she had PCOS.
She had PCOS, and that was her side effect. Well, I'm sure she probably had other side effects as well, but that was her side effect that she actually had.
So, but like PCOS in general, you can have multitude of different things that come from that. Like it's not like, hey, you're going to gain weight, you're going to da-da-da-da.
So for me,
it's kind of like a spectrum, to be honest. Like you could be at one end of the spectrum or the other. And like I said, some people just have this, some people have the symptoms with no cyst. It really just depends. And like it's crazy. You can have like body rashes and all these kind of things, you know, poor quality of skin, acne, all that kind of stuff that comes because it's all related to your hormones. So
I think if you took a survey of like the people, like the females in the weight loss community, like I think it would probably be like 90% of females in the weight loss community is PCOS. Like it seems to be a common thing that comes up.
But the worst part is,
I think the side effects definitely differ from person to person.
And that's why it's so hard to diagnose, because there's no like, you have this, you have it. You know what I mean? Like it's so tailored to every person that it takes months of testing. Same as endometriosis. It takes months and months of testing, and you've got to get it at the right time to actually be diagnosed with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems very complicated.
Like, for me personally, I didn't have any other side effect apart from like not being able to lose weight, which I use that very loosely because I was also, you know, eating all the wrong foods and blah, blah, blah. But I was exercising. I was doing F45 twice a day, and I was exercising. I was eating well, but I still couldn't lose weight. And then at the time I worked in a pharmacy. And I'd be sitting there talking to somebody about their cold and flu medication, and all of a sudden it would feel like someone was stabbing me in the ovaries, and I would literally like keel over and like be crying.
You're like, Kimmy, stop it. No.
Like I'd be like, it was just so painful. And then that's when I'd go get the ultrasounds done, and they'd be like, oh no, you're riddled with cysts. And then they're like, but
riddled with cysts.
But then for them to confirm it, I have to go back like a couple of weeks later for them to do another scan, and they'd be like, oh no, there's none there now. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, but they were there before, and I was like dying 2 weeks ago.
Have you been tested since, Sammie? Like to see like how your PCOS stuff has progressed?
No, I've done like the hormone side, like in terms of a blood test, but I haven't actually had a specific like internal ultrasound or anything to check my ovaries and what's happening in terms of my cyst.
It'd be interesting to see like, you know, how the weight loss and stuff has affected that.
Well, when the last time I went in to have an internal scan done, because I had gallstone issues. And so my doctor just put abdo area, which meant that they did everything. He was just like, we're just going to go in and get you checked for everything. And so we did an internal ultrasound. And she said to me, she's like, I can see your ovaries. And she's like, there is zero like signs of scarring, of cysts, of anything. So, and I was like, that's really interesting considering for like probably about a good 6 to 8 months worth of my chunk when I was overweight, I was going in literally every 3 to 4 weeks and having scans done. And it was like, you have cysts, you don't have cysts, you have cysts, you don't have cysts. And for her to say to me, you have, and like I didn't prompt her to say it. She just goes, oh, I can see that there's zero scar tissue, there's no cysts, there's no nothing. Like that was a massive thing, like a weight off my shoulder to kind of be like, okay, well, clearly, because I haven't been feeling the pains recently, or I hadn't when I was, having those scans done. So I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I kind of feel like me, because I went to the doctors and he said, okay, so a way for you to cure this if you have PCOS is to lose weight.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest like symptoms of PCOS is
weight gain.
So it's like this vicious cycle. Like
it is.
And is
100%.
that did your doctors say that to you as well when you were diagnosed at 19? That like, just lose some weight and you'll be cured of this PCOS?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's that vicious cycle that you mentioned, it goes hand in hand. It almost feels impossible to lose weight because with insulin resistance, you generally crave a high carb, high sugar diet. But then your body can't process it, so it just stores it as fat stores instead of converting it to energy. And then on the flip side of that, you have no energy or want to exercise because usually your nutrition is really poor and also you're overweight and it hurts. So it's really hard to find that motivation. And that's why previously when I had been successful, I had to really focus in on non-sustainable, very restrictive diets to try and trigger that cycle of actually seeing some momentum to stay focused and lose the weight.
And that's exactly where I was as well, because like I was 127 kilos doing F45 twice a day as a zombie. Like I would get there at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd work out, I'd go to work, I'd go back, and I'd go back at 5:30 in the afternoon. And I would be so tired, but I also knew that I had to be working out in order to lose the weight. But then you're also not eating properly throughout the day, so you have no energy to be sustaining the weight loss and the movement that you're doing. Like it was such a vicious
Speaking
cycle.
of like nutrition and fueling and stuff like that, when you were talking to your dietitian early on, did you have the conversations about the fertility, when you fell pregnant, did you still talk to your dietitian and talk about like how to fuel, because obviously, feeding for two, was that a concern of yours? Is it something you talked about with your dietitian? Or
it's funny that you mentioned that. I really only had a couple of initial appointments with my dietitian leading into pre-op and then post-surgery. So I felt pretty confident that I had the right resources and tools available to me. And working from home during lockdown, I had a kitchen and a fridge at my disposal. So it made it a lot easier to make sure that I was making nutritional choices. Whereas previously I would work on the road and I was very unorganized and I would never pack a lunch. So it was always drive-through, so that obviously contributed to my weight problem. But I felt pretty confident that I had it in hand. And then when I obviously fell pregnant, I didn't actually get back in touch with my dietitian, but I felt that my obstetrician had a lot of experience with weight loss patients, and as a result he was able to kind of talk me through making sure my nutrition was on track.
What's an obstetrician? Just out of curiosity.
Pregnancy doctor.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shannon Term, pregnancy doctor.
I've never dealt with a pregnancy doctor. Just saying. Yep. Okay. Continue.
Yeah. So the one thing I will say though that I found really interesting is my restriction obviously changed a lot throughout my pregnancy. So at the start of my pregnancy, I found that my restriction wasn't as tight as it had been, and I was really only 10 months out from surgery, so it still should have been kind of in full effect. So that concerns me, and obviously that comes with its own kind of mental game that you have to play, because you're now worried about, increasing the numbers on the scales instead of watching them, decrease. So, so I was eating quite a lot in the first trimester, in between feeling quite nauseous. Second trimester, I kind of felt like myself, again, still eating more than I would have pre-pregnancy, but not ridiculously. But in the third trimester, I actually found that my restriction kicked way back in. Like, I could barely stomach any food. And obviously that's because you're growing a baby and the baby's taking up all the room, and your stomach's literally sitting in your chest, and there's just no room for it to expand. And so when you already have a tiny tummy that doesn't take up much room, it gets tucked away. So I really had to rely on up and goes, actually, protein liquid. Up and goes. Yeah, liquid, to kind of substitute what I couldn't eat, because they were 200 calories per serve, and I could kind of just sip all day on them and have a few throughout the day, as well as small snacks. But yeah, she was a little baby, and they attribute that a lot to the fact that I had weight loss surgery. Typically, weight loss patients will have smaller than average babies.
Oh, wow. So that's really interesting.
It's good to know. It means that my baby might be smaller. It won't have your big head.
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing on the other side of it.
I know. I always look at Lita and I'm my big head. It's
I have
happening.
A tiny head. Take after me. I have a tiny head.
So you just mentioned something really interesting that I want to chat about. Like, because obviously having weight loss surgery, it's very focused on like losing weight and stuff like that. And you obviously felt pregnant throughout the process, like, early on. How did you find the mental side of, like, obviously, kind of contemplating, I need to fuel for my baby, but I also had weight loss surgery and want to lose weight. Like, how did you find that mental processing?
This is something that I'm really trying to get my head around, because obviously we're actively trying and I don't know how I'm going to feel with gaining weight again. Like,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work. I was really lucky that I had a great support system in some girlfriends from the community who were my total hype girls. So, when I was having a day and I was like, oh my God, guys, like I just feel massive, or like the scales are going up again, they would just constantly remind me, hang on a second, you did this to have a baby. It's okay temporarily for your body to change to be able to grow this beautiful gift that you've been given as a result of your success. And then you can refocus, but it does create a lot of body dysmorphia. And I still struggle with, some body dysmorphia to this day, because you do go from losing a lot of weight and then gaining weight and then back into like a postpartum weight loss type cycle. So yeah, your body, regardless of the numbers of the scales, your body changes anyway, whether it be additional excess skin, or, your boobs growing because you're breastfeeding or whatever it may be. Like, there's a lot of dysmorphia that can come from it. And I do know a lot of the girls in the weight loss community that I've personally spoke to struggle with that as well. So it is a constant battle, but you just got to remind yourself that essentially it's part of the reason that a lot of us did the surgery in the first place.
And like, pardon my ignorance, because I've never been pregnant before, but like, you've got to hit certain
whose kid's that in the other room? No, I'm just kidding.
Meow meow. You talk about meow meow. But like, certain stages of pregnancy, they kind of want you to gain a certain amount of weight, or at least maintain a certain amount of weight. Is that correct?
Yeah, they monitor you throughout your trimesters, I guess, but mainly it's focused on the third trimester. That's when the most growth happens at a rapid rate, I suppose. So, when you start going in fortnightly to see your pregnancy doctor, they will measure your stomach and put you. Yeah,
I appreciate the dubbing down there. Thank you.
Yeah, they'll, measure your stomach and put you on the scales and make sure that you are tracking. But you also have, growth scans of your baby as well to make sure that they're on track. We actually ended up having quite a lot of growth scans in the third trimester. We were having them every fortnight because they were worried that she wasn't far enough along the percentile, which I guess is like an average weight for a baby. She was a bit up and down. So, yeah, they just monitored me really closely. And in the end, I went to 40 weeks and 4 days. So she was, she was quite happy in there. And
She's
I had
well and truly baked.
40
Yeah.
weeks and 4 days. Well, how many weeks is the usual pregnancy?
39.
40.
39 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, 4 days. Girl was like enjoying the hospitality, didn't want to come out.
It's interesting that you talk about the whole growth size of the baby, because we had a little while ago, we had Taryn on and she talked to us about her pregnancy, but she had 2 kids prior to weight loss surgery, and then she's had her third child post plastics, but she had a abdoplasty, so I think that's what it's called, where they like pretty much, and all of her muscle got reformed, and it got to the point where her stomach, don't quote me on this, but her stomach wasn't growing as much as what it should have, and she didn't
have the expansion in her
she didn't have the
abdomen muscles.
She didn't have the elasticity and the expansion in her stomach, like the abdo, and so she would literally, she couldn't keep anything down, she couldn't do anything, so all she, like her actual surgeon told her to just eat ice cream because it's high in calories. It's got zero nutrition, but it's high calories, so just get those calories in for the baby.
Yeah.
Did you touch base with your surgeon when you fell pregnant to just be kind of like, is there any pointers?
Anything I should be concerned about or very wary of, or like anything like that?
Yeah, that was interesting actually, because I was obviously already pregnant and I hadn't spoken to him, and I knew that I had like this waiver essentially that I had signed to say I'm not going to attempt to get pregnant. And we weren't attempting.
The exact reason why I did this, but shh, don't tell anyone.
I know. And technically we weren't tracking or anything. We were just enjoying, each other during lockdown and
enjoying each other and your new body.
Yeah. So I was already pregnant and I hadn't contacted him, and then I had my 12-month follow-up. And I was like hyping myself up because I'm like, I'm going to have to tell him, like, I've done my bloods, like, does he already know? Like, what do they test for? And yeah, that was all via telehealth because we were in lockdown, and I said, so I'm pregnant. And he was like, oh, well, you've done it now. Like there's no point in me telling you off. He was really good about it. So, in terms of his advice, I guess it was just making sure that I was following kind of my obstetrician because he's the sole carer, I guess, of your pregnancy.
Yeah.
So your surgeon doesn't have a lot to do with it. They're just doing your check-ins post-surgery. But he was pretty good about it, and I've since obviously seen him for 18 months, and I took Harper in, and it was like a full circle moment of, sitting in front of the man originally 18 months prior and, just like letting loose all my reasonings for having weight loss surgery and pleading my case almost, to then bringing her in 18 months later and being like, here she is, we did it,
Yeah,
So,
God.
How did he react to that?
He would have loved that.
He was amazing. He held her. He took a photo with her. Like it was actually a really nice moment. And then he told me that I should have another one and then lose an extra 5 kilos and get plastic. So
have another one, lose 5 kilos, and then get plastic.
Because coming from, and I don't want to.
Goal setting.
I want to really reiterate that, because like coming from somebody who worked for a surgeon, I know that I just thought that I was another number coming through their doors. Like, this is what they do. They don't remember you. But I can guarantee you that they might not remember you on a daily basis, but they'll read back through your charts and they'll read the first initial the consultation, And for you to bring in Harper and be like, I didn't tell you at the time that this was my reason, but this was my reason. And because of your help,
it's done.
It's done. And like, honestly, that would have in some part made his day to just know that he made that impact.
That's it.
On your life.
It would have made his whiskey taste a little bit better at the end of the day, I bet.
Starting up his Porsche at the end of the day, he would have been like, yes.
Worth it.
Well, I think he flew out to Paris the day after he had surgery, so he's not living a bad life.
If only your daughter was called Paris, that would have been perfect.
No, he would have a little bit of caviar on that private jet and been like, I deserve this.
He was actually on the news tonight. He's being recognised in the hospital that he's based out of. They're doing an expansion, and so he was on the news, and they're naming some part of the wing after him or something. So,
wow.
You should name part of your house after him. You know, like it's called this wing. You know,
are you in Melbourne?
Yeah,
Melbourne. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So, did you work? Was it mainly your obstetrician that was part of your pregnancy journey, or did you work with a dietitian as well to sort of make sure that you were hitting your nutrients and all your nutrition and everything to make sure that not only were you giving the right nutrition for yourself, but also for your baby, Harper?
Yeah, no, it was really just the obstetrician. I'm sure if I had reached out to the dietitian, they would be quite involved and hands-on, but he didn't really have a working relationship with a dietitian that I was aware of. And in the early days, I guess he wasn't really concerned because I was progressing well. It was just in that third trimester. And by then it kind of felt a little bit too late to engage with a dietitian because I knew that I couldn't sustain large meals that essentially weren't liquid. I knew that my only option really was going to be high calories in a liquid form. Yeah.
So did your obstetrician though, like obviously you told your obstetrician that you'd had weight loss surgery. Did they seem sort of like okay with that, or did they kind of like, go, oh, this is, XYZ case, or like he just treated you normally and just kind of went, yeah, we'll just do your thing?
Yeah, no, he was great. I guess the initial kind of consultation that we had, I had obviously told him, I've had weight loss surgery, and he didn't put me in a high-risk category. I'd heard of other women that were kind of put in a high-risk category because of their weight loss surgery, and that could have to do with how far out from surgery possibly you are, or if you do have underlying issues, with endometriosis or anything that like physically is going to impact your ability to hold a pregnancy. So for me, he was like, no, it's no problem. I've dealt with people before with weight loss surgery. We'll just make sure that, you kind of keep on track with all your appointments, and we're monitoring you accordingly, and be honest with me about if you've got any concerns. He was the kind of obstetrician that I could ring and be like, I'm having a bleed, and he would take me in straight away and do an ultrasound on his premises. So I opted to go private with my obstetrician.
Private or public?
Private. I delivered publicly, but I went private for my obstetrician because I just needed that additional care factor and more consistent appointments than what the public system offers you when you're, in your early stages, because of my history with miscarriages and, the mental load that takes on you. So it was the best decision that I made.
Something you did say in your form, which is quite interesting, is you said, like, if given the chance again, would you do anything differently? You said, I would do it sooner. Do you feel like, you falling pregnant at your, the age you are now, it's a, would you have preferred to fall pregnant like in your 20s, or do you feel like it happened at a time? Oh, really? It really,
Do you think though you would have been mentally prepared for the weight loss, like the dramatic weight loss and pregnancy at an early age though? Like mentally weight loss surgery is massive. Pregnancy mentally is massive. Do you think if you had have done it, say, 8 years earlier, would you have been mentally stable enough to have done it?
Well, mentally prepared.
No.
Mentally prepared,
No. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
The timing in terms of the mental load that it took was perfect for me. But I guess, you know, you kind of get called a geriatric patient or a mother when you kind of on the plus side of 30, and that comes with its own complications. You know, they make sure that you do the NIPT test so they can do genetic testing because Down syndrome and chromosome disorders are a lot higher of a risk. And sleep deprivation, you know, like you could go out in your 20s and party all night and work the next day. I can't even, you know, deal with her waking up 2 times a night. I don't know how people whose babies don't sleep at all do it. Like it really does take a toll. So from the sleep side of thing and being younger and, you know, being able to be around longer, essentially, hopefully, it would have been great. But yeah, mentally, I definitely wouldn't have coped.
FYI, when I fall pregnant, we're going to be geriatric.
Mate, don't get me wrong. Sammie was just like, you know, talking about like being 35, you know, can't party all night. Mate, I stayed up past 9:30 once. All right. Like, don't put me, you know, I'm quite a sprightly young fella for my age. All right. But no, there is a lot of things that come along with like, you know, as much as you sit there and you go, I lost 50 kilos, you know, I fell pregnant. There's a lot of other things that came along with that takes a lot of, I guess, like mental strength to kind of process, you know, especially with, you know, you've lost, you know, had miscarriages and, you know, you've struggled with obviously falling pregnant. And it's not always like, you know, you can look at the fine print and be like, you know, black and white, this happened. But there's a lot of other things that would have come along with that you've probably just processed because of your, you know, maturity. So, you know, I guess one of those things is like, as much as you would have liked it earlier, I think you handled the situation because of your maturity. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of like extra little benefits that come along with that. So,
but I also
100%. And one of the byproducts of falling when we did is it all happened through lockdown. So as a result, Harper is hitting her milestones earlier because there's been that uninterrupted, no visitors allowed, one-on-one connection. So it's actually been fantastic in terms of creating a routine for her and making sure that we do have that connection without interruption. Obviously, the negative of that is you don't get to share her with people the way you would. Like my mum hasn't met her yet. We actually fly out to Queensland on Sunday.
I'm so excited for that for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm just waiting with bated breath for my COVID test and hers to come back so we know that we're negative and can get on the flight. But yeah, so there's positives and there's negatives as a result of it happening when it did. But she was the greatest distraction during lockdown, honestly. Like, yeah.
It's a good time to do it.
Who is anyone? You know,
that's
like
it.
you just didn't
I didn't
really
want to leave
notice.
home anyway, so it's fine.
Exactly.
I just want to put all my attention into my newborn baby, and you forced me to do it. So, oh well.
Yeah. You don't have to say no to friends because you're tired and you're cranky and you're trying to work it out. The decision was made for us. So.
That's it. It's a built-in excuse.
And she's
it's
so
amazing.
young as well. Like, because I've had a few friends say that lockdown's been like quite hard on them because their kids are in like the developmental stage where they should be interacting with other kids and stuff. But 6 months and under, like they're, you know, most people don't put their kids into like childcare and all that sort of thing that young. Not saying that it's bad if you do, but like most people within the first 6 months, it's kind of like, you know, just family time and blah, blah. And if both you and your husband were both home because of lockdown, like that's pretty special. Like to have that time with the two of you, that's pretty damn special.
Yeah. Well, he actually runs a business and is out in like the regional area. So he wasn't locked down because he was an essential service. But, you know, there was that uninterrupted time outside of his work time on the weekends where you don't have visitors, like I said. So there was definitely extra connection.
I love the cheeky grin that just came on your face. Uninterrupted time. You know,
they are planning for a second after all.
Like, he couldn't leave.
See about that.
He couldn't leave even if he wanted to. I had him all to myself.
That's how I trapped him in the first.
You're like, hey, we're locked down.
I'm
We've
sure
got
he's
nothing
not
else
complaining.
to do. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
So, like, in forms of, like, you know, where you're at physically, you know, do you feel like you're happy with where you're at physically? You know, do you look in the mirror and, like, is there, you know, do you want to pursue skins and different things like that? Like, where are you at with that
I
kind
guess
of
as
stuff?
well, because like you predominantly took on this journey to have a kid, have babies, but you also did it for, I'm going to say, a selfish reason, because you wanted to lose weight as well.
Yeah.
So are you confident in your body
I think
and yourself?
personal reasons rather than selfish reasons.
Yeah, okay,
is probably
personal.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
personal.
selfish sounds like I'm doing it for me and only me.
You are. You're losing weight.
Personal reasons.
Anyway.
Yes.
So, but are you confident in yourself and how you look and how you feel now, post surgery, post baby, post breastfeeding, all those sorts of things?
Somewhat. So I put on about 14. I think it was about 14 and a half kilos, and during pregnancy, and I actually lost, I think it was like 10 kilos within 2 weeks after having her. So the majority of the weight came off really quickly. That 4 kilos is still lingering. So it is, you know, it is only 4 kilos. So I'm not panicking in terms of like trying to get it moving, because I can definitely say my nutrition at the moment isn't the greatest because she comes first, and, you know, having the time to prep for myself throughout the day doesn't really happen. So I might be getting one really good nutritious meal at the end of the day and not much else throughout. You know, coffee is life, and it's served via an IV in our household at the moment. So in terms of, where I feel confident, I'm still happy and I can still acknowledge how far I've come. I'd love to be at the point of having the 50 kilo weight loss again, because I did definitely feel at my best. But I also look at photos from then and from now, and I can see a difference, but not that much of a difference. So things that I guess I am unhappy with is relative to the fact that although I had excess skin before having babies, I've got different excess skin now, I guess, because I've grown in different areas that I hadn't grown before. So I definitely want to pursue plastics at some point. But yeah, not something that I want to do now. And, you know, I'm not opposed to being able to kind of dress accordingly to my body, and if I feel comfortable in the clothes that I can wear without having to get plastics, then that's fine as well. But I think ultimately I'd like to be sitting at around, you know, 65 to 70 kilos. And then we'll see what happens, you know, whether there's another baby that comes along or whether I'm just happy in my body.
I was about to say, like, you know, goals moving forward, you know, is another kid hopefully in the books, you know, in the next few years, and situations like that. Is that kind of like, you know, for you a possibility that you're pursuing, or?
Possibly. So originally the husband was one and done. He was like, no, we're having one and that's it. I'm getting older, and, you know, I don't want to be a geriatric dad who can't keep up with his
kids.
It's
the worst term, isn't it? Geriatric
I know,
dad.
I know. But since having her, I think he's kind of swaying a little bit. Like, he's not saying definitely we'll have another one, but he hasn't gone out and got the snips. So
you're like, well, there could be another lockdown coming up. So
well, if you play with fire, you get burnt. So we'll see what happens.
Is that what you call it? You call it fire.
That says a lot about you guys, and I love that. But I also want to say, like, I watched your stories from today, which, sorry to anybody listening to this now because your stories are long gone. But you shared a thing with you and your friend who's also gone through weight loss surgery with you. Mm-hmm. And you were showing photos, you were looking through before and after photos. Oh, sorry, you're looking through before photos. And the two of you kind of just like reflected on the fact that, like, how far you've come. And I think that's such a, like, because you said something before where you were like, you had to deal with the mentality of you had to gain weight for pregnancy. And now that you're not pregnant anymore and you gained like 10 to 14 kilos and you've got 4 kilos left to lose. And I was like, isn't it amazing how quickly you have to change that mentality? So you've gone from being like, I'm losing weight to, okay, now it's okay to gain weight. But now I've had Harper, now I've got to lose those 4 kilos again. Like that's a massive mind fuck.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. And like, that's what we go through. And that's what people go through on the daily.
Yeah.
And listening to you say that then and watching your stories earlier today, I was just kind of like, I love the fact that you have got the mental capacity to actually sit there and reflect on how far you actually have come, even though you're not necessarily where you want to be right now. Like, don't get me wrong, you're happy with, you know, you're a mother now and everything's great that way. But taking the motherhood out of the picture, as a weight loss surgery patient, your brain's still saying, forget that, I still want to lose weight. So you've almost got a split personality. And that's it. Like it's hard. It's so hard. And I said to you before we started recording, like I couldn't decipher who was you and who was your friend in those photos because you've changed so much since your before photos. And 4 kilos in the grand scheme of things is not very much. But 4 kilos after pregnancy can seem like Mount Everest.
Yeah, yeah. I think the thing for me is, you know, I look at where I'm at the moment and I'm only 6 months out from having her, you know. So I don't feel like the 4 kilos is excessive. Sorry, I'm just going to turn a light on. Is that better?
Hi.
Yeah.
So I don't think the 4 kilos seems like Mount Everest at this point in time to shift at a time where I feel that I do have the mental capacity to focus on me and put myself first again. And I guess for myself, it's like, at what expense? At what expense do you say, you know, I'm happy to wear an extra 4 kilos because I do have her? Or, you know, like I went and paid all this money to have this surgery for this reason. Would I have not done it if I didn't hit my goal weight by 4 kilos? Do you know what I mean? Like you just have to weigh it up and say, what is the expense that you're happy to say, you know what, for now, I'm okay with where I'm at.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, like if you only hit 46 kilos and now you're, 46 kilos lost.
Did I fail?
Then, you know what I mean? No, but like if you lost 46 kilos, had, your baby, and then you're back to 46 kilos down, you'd be like, oh, great. But because you hit 50 and then you're 46, that extra 4 kilos makes you feel like, oh, maybe I need to do something about it. It's like, well, no, not really. Like, if you had only lost 46 in the first case, you'd be back to kind of where you were and you'd be like happy with the situation. But now because you've got to 50, you're kind of sitting there being like, but I was just there. And it's playing, plays a part in your head.
The thing is as well, is like if you had have decided not to go down the weight loss surgery path and you had have gone, we're going to try IVF instead, you would still be 120 kilos or 121 kilos and spent $30,000-$40,000 on IVF to try and fall pregnant. So it's kind of like along those lines, you've lost the weight and you've had a baby naturally and those 4 kilos is totally worth it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny that you mentioned IVF actually, because it was something that we did discuss at one point in time. And, I've got a few personal friends that have gone through IVF, both successfully and not. And it's so hard because there's no guarantee, right? So you throw all this money at the wall and you see what sticks. And at what point do you draw the line and say enough's enough financially? For us, that was the biggest thing. Do you spend 30? Do you spend 40? Do you spend 60? And then you've got, one embryo left and you say, do we dispose of it or do we pay another 10 grand and go again as our last hope? What is the mental capacity of that? So for me, I was like, you know what? Having surgery, I have a fixed price. I know that at the end of the day, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to feel happy and healthy. Whether I get to 46 kilos lost or 50 kilos lost is not failure for me. Anything, above what I've lost previously in my life is success. So it was a win-win outcome before I even knew that it was going to impact my fertility and change my life.
Yeah, really, if you look at the scale of things, you've won the lotto, really, because, you're 46 kilos down, you have a beautiful baby girl, Mate,
and probably saved myself 40 grand. So
yeah, that is literally the definition of success right there, because it's like, you've hit all the nails. It's pretty incredible. For someone else setting out on this process, where they're hoping to fall pregnant or, even just going down the weight loss lines, not for the pregnancy reasons, do you have a piece of advice that you would like to kind of share with, let's just say past you, someone like you prior to surgery? What's a piece of advice?
Can we break this up into two? Can we do, because I want to hear what you would say specifically for people who are wanting to fall pregnant. And then for people who are just going down the weight loss surgery path.
Oh, wow. She has to think it two?
Yeah, go
tips?
two.
Jeez, no pressure.
Okay.
Quick fire.
For those who are specifically wanting to do weight loss surgery for pregnancy, I would say don't put too much pressure on yourself in terms of actually falling pregnant. Just enjoy yourself and your partner and your new body. For us, that was, a positive side effect of having surgery with a positive outcome. And I find that there can be so much stress related to fertility and falling pregnant and cycling and, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's just best to put that as a byproduct and hope for the best, but just enjoy yourself along the way.
That's
good. That's good advice.
That just rung so true to me too, though, because not many people know this, but I actually, with my ex-partner, fell pregnant, miscarriage, whatever, it happened. And I'm right now, and I don't want to talk about it, but right now I am very glad that that's what happened. At the time I wasn't, but right now I'm very glad that it happened. But now for somebody who's trying to fall pregnant, and you say just forget about everything and just have fun, enjoy your body, blah, blah, blah. It's freaking impossible to do. How do you forget? I know exactly what day of the cycle I'm on. I know exactly what I should be doing right now. I have an app that literally every single day of this month has told me how I should be feeling. How do you stop thinking about falling pregnant? It's just...
I just had to switch off to it, like I said, it had to be a byproduct for me. If I put all my eggs in one basket and said, even though my goal was fertility and pregnancy, but if I said I'm only doing this to fall pregnant and I'm only doing this to have a baby, if it didn't happen for me, I would have felt like I'd failed, whether I'd lost 50 kilos or not.
Wow.
So I had to put the happiness and health first and just let go of everything else and see what happens. Because I couldn't afford the mental strain and the emotional connection to your phone telling you that, you're due for a period and waiting for that to happen and, knowing that another month has passed and you haven't fallen. I couldn't do that to myself. So I just had to enjoy being with my husband and seeing what happened, throw it at the wall and see what stuck.
I'm at the point now that so I'm part of this. I'm pretty sure everybody uses the same app, and I'm not going to mention it, but I'm part of this app, right? And it's never spoken to me as much as what it has recently. And it's kind of because I think it's because next month we're booked in with my gynecologist, who is also a fertility nurse, clinic specialist, whatever. She's a fertility doctor. And she said to me, it's either going to be your first scan or it's going to be your first appointment to talk about IUI. And then we didn't fall pregnant this last month, gone. So it's kind of I feel like my app has been listening to me. Crazy, I know. But I feel like my app's been listening to me. And I've never got a text message every single day from my app before. But in the last 3 weeks, I've got a text message from this app every single day being you will feel depressed today. And I'm like, how did you know? It's you will feel slightly better today. And I was like, how did you know? And it's today you are loving life. And I was like, oh my God, are you watching me? What's going on?
It's like a horrifying horoscope.
It's like a horoscope every single day that's on point. And it's
do you not think that's it tells you you're feeling something because then you start going,
no, because,
I must be feeling that.
Because it said to me the other day, it was you will get a pimple today. And I was like, I got a fucking pimple today. Are you kidding me? What are you doing? And I was I need to get rid of this app because it's just... We're not trying and we're not putting emphasis on it, but when you've got this app that's literally sitting there telling me every single day what I need to feel and what I should be doing, I'm just kind of how do you forget about this? This is, everybody says that you fall pregnant when you forget. or when you're not trying. I have notifications on my watch that tells me that I should be feeling this specific way every single day. Like,
that's so triggering to me. Like, I just couldn't deal with that at all. You know, it's that constant reminder of, oh, my body's not working the way it needs to. It's not doing the things that I was fundamentally designed to do as a woman. So I just couldn't. I just had to say, no, I'm not going to track cycles. I'm not going to drive myself insane. And for some people, that's how they find success, and that's how they feel like they take control of their situation. And I'm all for advocating whatever the right journey for you is. But for me personally, I just couldn't. You know, I'd already taken on so much mental load with miscarriages and infertility for, you know, the guts of 15 years. I just couldn't put myself through cycling and tracking and being told by my phone how I should and shouldn't feel that day.
And it's so true though, because like we'd be in that 2-week phase where you're kind of like waiting in between your cycle and being like, are we pregnant or not? And then you go to the toilet and you're like, oh, damn, I'm not pregnant. And then like 3 hours later, you get the notification on your phone being like, don't forget to log your period. And it's like, I don't want to log it because it's here and that's not the outcome that I wanted. Like, you get so emotional and so attached to this thing. This is a natural thing and I shouldn't be angry by it. Like, for the first time in my entire life, I'm regular and that's amazing. But I'm angry at the fact that I'm regular now because it's like, well, I'm not pregnant now. It's so, it's such a, thank you. I need to delete all my apps.
Well, that's one thing that Lita's going to take away from this episode. Then that's great. Thanks, Sammie. You know, no, what I took away from it is, you know, forget about it. Let's go, Lita. In another room.
Okay, bye. That's another episode of Bari Banter. See you, bye.
But no, honestly, thank you, Sammie, coming on and being so open and honest about, you know, obviously the struggles you've gone through, especially when it comes to like, you know, losing miscarriages and stuff like that. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there relate to that because it is unfortunately part of the whole, you know, situation. But I think you offer a lot of hope to others out there who may be struggling and, you know, looking at weight loss surgery as a solution. There's no, obviously, statistical facts out there to say that it will help you, but, you know, at the end of the day, it can't hurt, you know, to lose the weight.
It's definitely an option.
Yeah, because you lose the weight, you've obviously gained a little confidence, feeling better about yourself, happier, healthier. You know, it can't hurt. In the scheme of things,
buying
really,
some
clearly.
More lingerie and getting in there in the bedroom.
That sounds healthy to me. But yeah, anyway, if there is someone out there that wants to reach out to you, Sammie, and have the conversation about, you know, fertility after weight loss surgery, where will they be able to find you?
So I'm on Instagram at _Sammie.
Perfect. Well, guys, if you want to reach out, please feel free. Alita, you look like you had something to say.
No.
She didn't. She just kind of went like, and I was like, she's just gasping for breath. I took her breath away again. Anyway, guys.
Shan took my breath away.
Thank you, Sammie. Absolute pleasure to have you on. And guys, that is another episode 69. Makes sense now, doesn't it? Of Bari Banter. Well, yes, that is another episode of Bari Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.